Hello, House of Mass Reviews here, doing two reviews in one day. Yeah, I figured best get these two videos done because, well, they're both, well, what can I say? Y- You know what the titles are of these next two reviews, so let's just get started. Let's start with the first one, which is Loki Season 2. Now, I think for a lot of people, of all the shows, I think it's fair to say that of all the shows the MCU has released, that have been part of the MCU, since 2021 have, well, it's obviously to say that this one is obviously the one everyone has loved the most. It's the one everyone agrees is the best, and there's no answer about it. Every other show has its problems. Um, this is hands down the best. Well, I think you all know I'm still the what my favorite show is still What If, and I know a lot of people who also agree with that too. Well, okay, it's fair to say both those shows have been considered the best that Marvel Studios have released, but Loki is in many ways the only show that I think a lot of people can say it makes sense for it to be a show, not a movie. And everything they dealt with in the first series was praised by a lot of people, with only really one episode being considered mediocre and unnecessary. And you know what? Going into this season, look, the recent track record has of the MCU, not just the shows. I mean, I've already gone over how the shows can have gone on a massive. I've really started to see the problems of the shows since Miss Marvel, though that was more my own issues. And then She-Hulk came around, and yeah, a lot of people were happy with that. I wasn't happy with a lot of choices there as well. And Secret Invasion had a lot of problems. So I do not want to go over. I'll list my reviews in the show up any moment of that. But season two of Loki comes out, and I'm I think we can all agree the reception has been very, very positive. About the same as the first series. I think it's probably a little bit better than the first series, just to say. But yet again, much like the first series, only one episode is I think eh. The rest of them are all fantastic. But let's get on with it. So we pick up right after the events of at the end of the events of season one, where Loki, after witnessing Sylvie off the variant kill of He Who Remains, the original variant of Kang the Conqueror, what ends up in the TVA where no one recognizes him. Because as it turns out, he's not in an alternate version of the TVA, he's in the past, before the TVA even started, collecting taking care of various variants of himself. After when he returns to the present, he learns from Mobius and a new character as Ouroboros, aka OB, played by Ke Huy Quan. Could see him make a bit of a comeback as of late with obviously his Academy winning performance last year. In this, um, discovered he is time slipping, where he uncontrollably teleports from the past and the past, present, and future, and most likely due to the effects caused by He Who Remains' death. After figuring out how to control to mitigate it for the time being, the the three of them, along with Casey, who was the receptionist in season one, and Hunter 15, who was the first of the TVA agents to work out what was that they were being lied to. Five of them agreed to track down the whereabouts of Sylvie, as well as Ravonna Renslayer and Miss Minute. So both went off, left at the end of season one after Mobius confronted them, as well as find other variants of He Who Remains, all while dealing with more turmoil at the TVA, including a potential catastrophic event that could destroy the TVA as they know it, which Loki is determined to prevent from happening because he's grown attached to everyone there, and he knows that what the threat of what's to come. So in many ways, this show is basically the main premise is trying to save the TVA, and it's also showing more sides of Loki now that in many ways, he's now found a place. This variant's found a place where he belongs and wants to protect the people who he's come close with. In fact, I think the main thing you see from this is Loki's attachment to these characters and premise of when he got in episode five when he meets the original the original versions of his friends before their variants were taken by the TVA. It's interesting to see just how much he misses what he loves who he knows personally and knows more commonly. But yeah, and in many ways, I think you see a bit more different sides of Loki than you usually have in many ways, and I appreciate that. The tension in this is pretty simple but effective in many ways, and honestly, I don't really think that there was that much tension in the in season one. It was more mystery as to what who was ultimately on top, and I love a lot of the growing threats of trying to locate Sylvie and finding out, trying to find Renslayer and missed minutes, or whether they can trust this variant they may have of He Who Remains, or potent and of course the ultimate potential destruction of the TVA as they know it. The sets, I never really praised much of the sets, especially of the TVA in the first series, I think, but in season one. But I love this. It's very different, and it's always good to see. I think my favorite room is probably the pie room. I don't know, I just love that. And Ouroboros' Obi's office is also fantastic. Love that. Um, Even when they go to the World's Fair, to the Chicago World's Fair to find, or they find to look for Renslayer, it also looks pretty good, and I really do love that. Once again, the quiet moments are probably my favorite parts in this series. I love almost everything in when the characters just take time to to talk and explain what the situation is and learn a bit more about these characters. Although there is one part which I will address later with Mobius that is a little bit, eh, I'll explain when we get to that, bit inconsistent. The acting's all good. I've already mentioned Tom Hiddleston is once again, I think probably his best performance as Loki since Ragnarok. He does a really good job in this whole, in as this character. He knows the ins and outs, everything, and I think but by far, Ke Huy Quan is the best actor in this. I love Ke Huy Quan in this. He's fantastic. I didn't get much laugh out of him, even though he does get a few good chuckles. But he's just so fat. He's just so quirky and enjoyable to be around. I just want to meet him. I want to meet OB. I want to get to know this guy and just learn all about from him. And when you actually meet his original variant, his original his variant's original self, it's almost like he's almost like the one person whose variant is the exact same as his main self. It's kind of creative. It's kind of funny. No, that's probably the funniest, but I love that. Um, of course, and I've really grown to love all these characters, and when we get to the ending, which I'm not going to give away what exactly happens, but the choice that Loki has to make in order to save the day in many ways and protect the multiverse from Kang's eventual uprising, it actually is very bittersweet, and it kind of in many ways wraps up his whole entire storyline that's been going on since the very beginning when we first met him in the original Thor. Even even you can sort of say the original variant that we from the main MCU timeline. It's very strange how they managed to do that, and very it's bittersweet, and you feel a sense of uh, you can feel both happiness and feeling bad at the same time. It's kind of impressive how they do that, and the visuals and the music of what as Loki heads up to deal with to protect the TVA is just it's just fantastic. With that said, though, I do have my issues. I think episode two is probably the most filler one. To be fair, it is relevant to the story, but much like episode three of season one, you could probably, if you wanted to rewrite it, it's pretty easy to do, just to include the important bits, because episode two is where they finally locate Sylvie. With that said, there are some inconsistencies with that, like Sylvie leaving to an alternate timeline to work at McDonald's. Okay, well, I knew this was going to be it just because. Oh, geez, the McDonald's cups. Listening to all the places that cup has been seen in media. Yeah, and then said it was going to be involved in the series, and all right, fair enough. Whatever. Mobius probably has one. There's a scene with Mobius, I think in episode two, where he gets asked why he hasn't gone to check out where he originally came from and the life he originally had before he became a variant and agent of the TVA, and he's like he doesn't really care because the TVA is yeah all he needs. And yeah, remember in episode 4 where he stood up to Renslayer to wanting to go back to his original timeline, um, and be with his jet skis. You actually do see the jet skis. We actually do meet the original version of Mobius, but yeah, I don't know. Like, I think yeah, it was probably not the best. It was a little bit left. Yeah, inconsistent. It was inconsistent. There is one very agent of the TVA that they have to deal with, named Brad Wolf, an actor who attempts to regain his life as an original actor. And what exactly happens to him? Like he disappears after episode 4. You see him briefly in episode 6, but what exactly happens? Do they actually return to his original timeline, to the timeline he's now called home? Does he become a prisoner again at the TVA? Because Sylvie, you know, especially because I don't know what exactly happens to him. He could still be a potential threat. Yeah. Um. Then there's two things that's got me a little bit questioning what's going to happen. First off, the fate of Renslayer. Um. Those who've read the comics obviously know that Ravonna Renslayer is the wife of Kang the Conqueror. And while there is hints towards that when they meet one of Kang's variants, Victor Timely, in a conversation that they have, and it's the way this ends and Renslayer's fate at the end. I'm not sure if this is if they've left if she is going if they're left it if it's still open that she could be eventually be involved in say King Dynasty or Secret Wars and all that, or if it's just nah we're ending it off before thing gets too for because we feel like that's the best ending for it. I don't know. And now the other thing is with Loki, where this season ends. Is this the end of our journey with Loki? I think this is the end of the show. I don't think they can do another a season three of the show. But with that said, again, with the comics, it is possible for the way of how the show ends that Loki could still be involved at the very least in Secret Wars. That's what I think. And let's be fair, I think they need him to be in the next Avengers movie. To because he will obviously have a lot of information that will prove to be useful against Kang. But the problem is again, I guess leads again another problem. I'll talk. Thing is though, I probably will bring up the whole Brad Wolf thing and this a bit for my review of the Marvels because there's again some issue. That It's probably one of the two things I find very similar between these two things, but again, watch my next review. Um, so I'll get more into that later. But with that said, season 2 of Loki is fantastic, is really great. I think it's fantastic. I think it's a great way to end up this show. Um, as I said, I don't think they can really do a season 3. Whether or not this is the end of Loki as a of the character of Loki, it's debatable. We'll have to wait and see. But for what it is, the show, yeah, still remains definitely one of the best shows that Marvel Studios have done. Not my favorite. My favorite still got season 2 coming out later this year. I hope. Let's hope the writer strike hasn't the writer and actor strike hasn't isn't going to the aftermath of that being finished isn't going to push it back further. But please come out. But yeah, with that said, Loki season 2, 8.5 out of 10 has stars. Zero point 0.5 difference compared to the original season, to the first season. So yeah, season 2 higher than season 1 in my view. Love it. Now, next review. Tune in for that. Because as I said, these two videos, Loki and Miss Marvel, are back to back on this channel. So watch. And well, or if you don't want to watch House of Masterpiece is out, and I'll see you next time. But if that's the case, see you for my next video. See you for the Marvels in very shortly.